You've probably butchered some of your best layout ideas, telling yourself that the safe option will just perform better anyway. So you keep playing it safe, and little by little your work starts to look like everyone else's. In this video, my friend, I will show you how to break out of that mold by controlling the layout journey, so you can separate your designs from layouts that perform but they are too predictable, and you can start to quietly lead users' eyes exactly where you want them without compromising on performance. Let's go! Hello my friend, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Adrian Somoza, former lead designer at Monks, and I'm now a consultant helping freelance web designers scale their businesses to 6 figures so they can enjoy financial peace and creative freedom. Now, I teamed up with Framer for this video, and soon I'll be showing you how I used Framer's AI agent to create some cool layout variations, and we're going to analyze them. If you want to try it out, then make sure to use my coupon code BONT2 for 30% off 1 year of Framer Pro. Link is below. And I also prepared a free resource for you called the Golden Canon Grid that includes a free course with 5 secrets to compose beautiful layouts with it. More than 10,000 designers are already enjoying it. Link is below. Now, first, let me talk about breaking the mold, okay, for a second. In the West, we scan designs in an F or a Z pattern, simply because that's how we read books, from left to right, from top to bottom. Now, if we lean on these layout patterns, they will definitely work, they will definitely perform, but the problem is they get too predictable. And the problem with being too predictable is that it becomes boring for users. Users skip the important content, they don't retain the information as much, they bounce more often, they forget about our website because it looks like every other website from competitors in the same niche, and we lose an important chance to tell the story of the brand that we're designing for in a unique and memorable way. And I think one of the 7 laws of good web design is that good web design is memorable. If you want to take a look at all of those 7 laws, then watch this video. But done well, if you control the visual journey or the visual direction of your designs, you can make your websites more readable because you pre-digest the content for the user. You're not just spitting information in paragraphs, or you're not just being super obvious with like a big paragraph and an image, for example. You're actually instilling your criteria into the layout and using hierarchy and contrast and white space and color to pre-digest the content for the user and tell the user, hey, I think this is more important for you, this is secondary, and this is tertiary, right? So make sure that you read this. Then if you want to learn more, then read this, and then take a look at this if it's really, really important for you. Now, I know someone in the comments will tell me, these layouts are too complex and users will get lost. Well, my friends, let me address that beforehand. First off, the truth is that users are smarter than we think. I think we underestimate users. And unless the audience is not digital savvy, right, you can trust them to follow your layout, okay? Now, the one rule I never break is that the layout still has to be functional. And one of the main things that makes it functional or not is whether the visual journey supports the message or not. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that in this video. But to me, boring and predictable is just not acceptable. I like to think above the average, and I like to always push my designs to the next level. And so to do that, you need to break out of the mold. Okay, so I want to encourage you, don't hear those people who tell you that layouts are not like the complex or more complex layouts are not going to work. And let's dive deeper into how we can make layouts more engaging by controlling the visual journey. Now remember, if you haven't grabbed it yet, the free Golden Canon Grid is in the description and it pairs perfectly with everything that we're going to talk about in this video. Link below. Now, there's 2 types of visual direction. There's natural direction and artificial direction. Bear in mind that even without animation, you can suggest movement with color, hierarchy, texture, shape, and white space. And the path that the eye follows in your designs is what we call visual direction. Now, visual direction comes in two types, a natural and an artificial type. Natural direction borrows movement from how objects move in nature, like a bird flying. For example, here, if we reload this and you can see the loading animation, you will see that bird flying there. That's natural movement or natural direction. Also, parallax effects are natural direction. So it's basically mimicking how things move in the real world. This is one example, and at the bottom of this page we can see how there's some parallax effect here. But the most common one is artificial direction, and it's when you build the path yourself using contrast in color, position, size, texture, shape, and white space. So for example, here again, we can see how like all of these stickers are laid out in the page in an artificial way, but a very purposeful way to create this kind of texture-like effect around the main thing, which is Got Email. And they all stem or, explode from that button right there. So that's artificial direction. The way the objects are positioned kind of point towards the center. You can also use lines. For example, these lines here help the eye, guide the eye through the content so that you understand. We can also use color to separate and say, okay, this is a line where, the contents inside this red block belongs to the same thing, right? And other blocks don't have this color. Why? Because the block that we want to be looking at is this one. Same thing goes for this design, right? The lines here kind of guide the user's eyes so that I'm not going from 0,1 to 0,2, but rather from 0,1 to design direction and to the image on the right. So either way, right, if it's artificial or natural direction, the goal is the same. It's to decide where the eye should go and then lead the eye there. Here, for example, this big text wins in hierarchy our attention. And so we start here and then we go towards the show reel, which is in the center of it. And then we go towards the bigger text, and then we go towards small text. So that's the visual direction of this section of the page. By the way, one very unnoticed way that you can guide the user's eye in a composition is by using the eye of the subject in the image or the video. So in this case, for example, I've used the eye of this artist looking to the left to point people to the left. So maybe people will start here at cast, they will go towards tomorrow, then to the eye of, or the image, and then they will go back to the CTA and the text. So you can use, and I would encourage you to use the eye of the subjects in your images to pull the attention of the user's eye towards where you want it to go. Same thing goes here. You can see how I pointed the subject's eye towards where I want them to look at, which is the title, right? So they both look at the title. And here's one more example where we can see how we can use one object to kind of guide the user's eye towards where we want the users to look at. These are all websites done with Framer, by the way. Now let me walk you through the process of how I actually define the layout journey of a section of the website, okay? Because it would be very long to do a whole website. But the key premise is that you'll never get it right in one pass. This always comes with iteration, okay? So don't expect to make it right in the first pass. Now, normally I would build one version, duplicate it, and try a different direction again and again. So basically just duplicating, changing things, duplicating, changing things until I arrive to something I like. Sometimes I do that 10, 15 times. And let me show you that very quickly. But also let me show you how I did it this time with Framer's AI agent, because now there's the process of doing this is changing, okay? So this is how I used to do it years ago. I would first start with the best I can, right? Like my first iteration is always very basic. Then I start changing things, like you can see here. Then I start switching up things, basically changing the sizes, changing position, changing the order of elements, shrinking them, making some others bigger, adding, removing, right? So that's like one pass of iterations. Let me show you another one. So this came from basically this one. I jumped to this one. Then I started like moving things around, playing with the same elements I had, but just moving things around, shuffling things, sometimes adding things in the background, sometimes blowing up things like the title here. Here I said, okay, maybe if I don't have like this big thing or this big title because it didn't look good, well, then maybe I can use that in another module. So I tried another module like that. And here's one last option I tried, just breaking up the logo and creating this type of layout. Now, this is how I did it in 2026, okay? I started with this design, which is closest to my current version of the website. And what I did is I asked the AI agent to create some iterations for me. And I'm very impressed at the results. So let me show you very quickly how I did it. First off, I explained all my thought process and I gave some parameters to the agent so that it could understand what to do, what not to do, right? We always try to one-shot it as much as possible, right? So I tried to do like a very long prompt, but typically this takes iterations as well, right? Like even with the agent, it takes iterations to kind of get it right. And so you can see it thought for a moment and then it gave me 5 options. I asked for 5 options and it gave me 5 options. Let me show you. So these were the 5 options. So this first pass was okay, but I gave some feedback to it, okay? For example, it was kind of cutting off the image, so I asked to maintain the aspect ratio close to 16:9. Then it kind of broke the logo as well a little bit like so. So I asked not to do that, right? And I started to iterate with the agent. And the result was very impressive. Let me show you here. And by the way, these were not the final results because I also, once it did the iterations, I then tweaked some things here and there to make it match even better what I wanted, right? But these were some iterations that the agent did for me. The one I totally loved is this one. Now, by the way, one pro tip here for Framer's AI agent is when you do a workflow that you like and you enjoy doing it, one thing you can do is just ask the agent at the end to compile all instructions into one prompt so you can reuse it, okay? And that way you get a prompt that you can reuse for when you're going through the same process, and you can just copy paste the same prompt that compiled all the things, all the iterations that you went through with that chat. I did that, so let me grab the prompt. So here were all the instructions that I told the AI agent. And here is the layout exploration prompt that the AI agent helped me craft based on this conversation I had with the agent. So if you ask me, I would just copy paste this one if you want. Just pause it or screenshot it. I'm gonna also leave it probably in the description. Let's try out, I wanna see how this goes. Let's try out this prompt with this design, okay? So I wanna duplicate this below and let's see. Take my existing design, this one, and create, let's say here, 5 layout variants using exactly the same elements, blah, blah, blah. Let's see how this works, okay? And while the agent is thinking, let me just say that don't worry too much about, the credits, because credit efficiency of Framer has improved a lot from last month to this one. So now you get an average of 50% faster and better results than last month, and you can use 50% fewer credits than last month. They just worked on the credit efficiency, so now with less credits you can be more efficient and do more things, okay? So don't worry too much about that. I'm going to show you, by the way, how many credits it used, okay? By the way, I'm using Opus 5 here. Okay, so now it's duplicating but not changing anything. Let's see what it does. So we can see how the agent is working for us. And I think this is a very cool way to kind of iterate and think outside the box a little bit without having to put a lot of effort. So you could just go do something else if you want and come back to it, and you will have some great results to look at, okay? All right, so now we have some results to look at, and of course, most will need some work, and you can, of course, by all means, change some things. Like, for example, this one doesn't make sense in terms of the positioning because this should go somewhere here, right? So bridge, maybe the gap to financial peace and creative freedom. But still, like with some tweaks, you could make it work. Notice that here the changes I did were for the visual journey. So here we start naturally on to financial peace and creative freedom rather than here, even though this is the beginning of the line. Why? Because we read from left to right and from top to bottom. So what I did here very quickly is to align this here, push this to this edge, and then push this down below to align it with the bottom of the paragraph. And then I can, like, if we leave it like this, right, we could basically do that, maybe just aligning it to the right of this bottom text. The problem there is that here the gap that is created is gonna point me kind of here, but I could also be tempted to read this first because it's left to right and top to bottom, but white space also works as a magnet to pull you towards elements in the composition, okay? So here it's kind of pointing me towards 2 before pointing me to the gap. So to avoid that visual journey and make sure that it's properly read, I would do this. And in that case, I think the visual journey will go like this. Now here, probably the user will start on the logo. It will go towards the image, then towards the carousel, then here, then here, then here, and so on, right? Read the paragraph and maybe then end up here. So this is a very interesting layout, and I think it could work really, really well. This one I also liked, and this one was also created by the AI agent. I just tweaked some things here and there, but here I think there's a similar situation. We go from here, then to bridge, then to the gap, then to financial peace and creative freedom, then here, and then here. So kind of like a Z-like effect, but still it's not so predictable as having everything that's text on the left and everything that's image on the right. You know what I mean, right? Other options, we're using this line, I think, a lot. So one thing I would prompt the AI agent to do in this case is maybe just iterate without that line, or maybe do something vertical, maybe try like a diagonal, right? Like break out of this using this line. But you can see here, bridge the gap. Here there's a big cut because there's an image, so probably the user will do this first before jumping towards the image and towards this. So I think this one works. This one works as well, but here again we have to financial peace on the left and bridge the gap on the right. So here I would also make sure it's, the other way around, so that we're ensuring the readability. And that's what I mean with when we're controlling the layout journey of our websites or of each section of our website. We want to make sure that it performs well, that it reads well, and that we're leveraging the typical reading pattern that we have in the West, which is left to right and top to bottom, okay? Now, before you go, if you haven't done that already, make sure to grab the Golden Canon Grid. It's in the description. And that's it for today. I really hope you found it valuable, my friend. And as always, let's bridge the gap one pixel at a time.